On this week's Gridiron Report, we have a 100% Detroit Pistons podcast for the listeners today. And it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all your golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, May 6th. And while we are a Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast, this is going to be a 100% Detroit Pistons podcast. This is officially the longest we've been able to talk about active Pistons games in almost a decade, or excuse me, almost 20 years, or yeah, since 2008, however long that's been. The Detroit Pistons.
Nearly 20 years.
We have the Detroit Pistons beating the Orlando Magic in a Game 7. We have the Detroit Pistons playing right now as we speak. There's about 4 minutes left in this fourth quarter. The Pistons are up 97-93, so you might hear some live reactions from us. So we have Game 1 from the Eastern Conference semifinals. We have the rest of the series we're going to preview. But first and foremost, we got to start with the Detroit Pistons coming back from down a 1-3 deficit, getting it done against a good Orlando team, an Orlando team that, like, we talked about it for the last few weeks. This is not an 8 seed. Well, I should say this wasn't a normal 8 seed because when they have Franz Wagner, who they didn't have for majority of the year, they were an 8 seed, right? Like, Franz was out for a lot of the year. Without him, I think they're very much an 8 seed. But with Franz, they are very much, like I said a few weeks ago, like a 3-4 seed. So, and we saw that almost play out in real time. When they had him, we were struggling. A lot of times we weren't the best team on the court. They had us on the ropes. As soon as they lose Franz Wagner, they're a whole different team, and the Pistons end up, coming away with it. So I don't want to get it twisted. Like, I will never apologize for beating a team that's in front, with a team that's in front of you. I will never apologize for, for schedules or injuries or anything like that. But like, if Franz plays this series, I don't think it ends up the way it did. But it doesn't matter. Franz was out, and we end up coming back from a 3-1 deficit. How about them boys?
Yeah, especially, how about them Pistons, dude? I'm so proud of them. But especially, like, Game 6, like, you look at a game where the Magic are up, like, 1 billion points. If you have Franz Wagner, you probably close out that game. I think, like,
yeah, 100%.
Everyone's on that side. But, again, it's the NBA. It's sports, professional sports. Injuries happen. We're not going to sit here and apologize. At the end of the day, there are 16 teams in NBA history that have come back from a 3-1 deficit. And the Detroit Pistons are one of them. Oh, they already were. They this history repeats itself.
Yeah,
2003. In the same sequence of games, the Detroit Pistons come back from a 3-1 deficit and take it to the Magic. It happened again. History absolutely repeated itself. This is one for their history books. But I think let's break down game by game. Obviously, Game 6 and Game 7 were incredible, but we got to start with Game 5, right? Detroit 116. Orlando 109, Pistons back against the wall in LCA. It's the one where if you want to come back from 3-1, you gotta start. It all starts with Game 5, right? And what I really like, my big takeaway was, first quarter, Pistons come out and they just jump on the Magic. Like, it's what you absolutely needed to do. You couldn't just roll over like puppies and rubbing the belly. You had to jump on them early, and the Pistons absolutely did that. 38-26 in the first quarter. And really the rest of the game was smooth sailing from there. You had an amazing game from Paolo Banchero, 45 points, but our guy Cade had an amazing game of his own, 45 points, absolutely unconscious, shot like 57% from the field, 63% from three. He was just insane from three. He was getting it done, both sides of the ball, defense, offense. And yeah, man, this is what you needed in Game 5 to really, regain some momentum and say, like, hey, if you're going to beat us, like, you got to beat us at your own place. You're cert as hell, you're not beating us at home. LCA Game 5. Heard the crowd was rocking. It's exactly what they needed.
Yeah, this was, 100%. This is what the Magic did to us in the first few games. They just blitzed us, and they had the energy out the gate. And we've the first few games in which we were down in the series, we came out extremely flat. We just came out like, I don't know if it was lethargic. I think it was a combination of like lethargic, being just kind of a little bit careless, not taking care of the ball. Cade was phenomenal. I mean, we'll get to Jalen Duren in a little bit because I think in Game 7 he kind of, and not just him, the entire team really started to play like the 60-win team that we saw all season. We'll get to that eventually, but like this was the first game of the series where like Cade was just absolutely insane. It was like truly special to watch, and I'm a
Speaking of Cade. Sorry.
Yeah, dude. So you're going to hear this throughout the rest of the. There's 2 minutes left in this game. We're up by 7 points. This was actually really fun watching Cade and Paolo go back and forth, but at the same time, like they both ended with 45 points. Paolo's shooting, he was so inefficient. His numbers at the end of the day, his total percentage, he was 17 for 31, which is just terrible. 31 shots is an insane amount, and then to have it, only be hitting on 17 of those, as opposed to Cade going 13 for 23. So 31 shot attempts versus 23 shot attempts. Of course, Cade went 14 for 14 from the free throw line. Paolo went 5 for 12. So Paolo could have racked up, a lot more points had he have been more efficient at the line as Cade was. But Cade was just doing it so efficiently. So I think like a little bit, Cade's 45-point outing was a little bit overshadowed by Paolo's because he also did that. But if you just looked into the numbers and like watched it, Cade was so much more efficient than Paolo.
That's some Paolo shade right there. I mean, I don't know about you. 17 for 31 is pretty damn efficient. It's actually only like 2% less than Cade shot. So you're throwing some shade on Paolo, man.
Hey, I have not shied away from Paolo. Hey, I think Paolo's extremely inefficient. I think he can get buckets, but I think he's super, super inefficient. And like, he's almost like one of those guys where if he's going off, it almost hurts your team because he's going to continue shooting. He's going to put up way too many shots. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, Cade, I mean, was absolutely fantastic. This was the first game in which like he took over and like, the first few games, he was just a little bit slow getting going, but he was able to put in coming off the lung injury. Like that makes sense, right? If you watch him play, he's got the giant rib padding around. Like I can't imagine how he's breathing out there. But this was the first game like we were watching just true greatness. And I'm glad it was on such a national scale in the playoffs and everything. So Cade was absolutely great. And you said the crowd was rocking. They got it done. They got it going early in the game, and that's what you really needed to do. Game 6. A little bit different, actually quite the absolute opposite, because just exactly like the first couple of games started, the Magic came out and just absolutely came out swinging. Like they were firing at all cylinders. I think everyone, if you were watching that game and you didn't think the season was over, you're a liar. Like everyone was watching that game. What was the deficit at one point had to have been like
24.
24?
And it was right before half too. I mean, like they literally 24 points. I think we might have scored late, cut it to 22, but 22-point deficit at half.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to pause here for a second. We can cut this if we need to. 44 seconds. Come on.
Tobias.
Got the foul. Hell yeah.
Tobias.
Yeah, so it's not like it was the first like 5 minutes and then we kind of found it was like you said the entire first half. I think we looked out of sorts. Everyone, I mean, Desmond Bane could not miss. He up until that point, I remember because I texted our buddies about it. Up until that point, which was almost like 5 minutes or almost like 3 or 4 minutes left in the first half, he was shooting the 3-point percent. The last 3 games, including that time, he was shooting the 3-point percentage at like 59% on high volumes. Like he could not miss. It was absolutely insane. And then they just kind of they came out in the second half. I guess JB Bickerstaff must have just absolutely torn them apart in the locker room because they came out the second half and the Magic couldn't do anything. I mean, I haven't seen a defensive performance. And of course, there's people arguing like, oh yeah, but like it was great defense, whatever. At the same time, the Magic were missing open shots, and Magic were missing open shots. But it absolutely plays into itself. You start stopping everything. You're getting everything going on offense. Suddenly, the Magic they start getting in their own head, and they can't make any shots themselves. So like, yeah, the defense wasn't perfect, and the Magic was missing like some open shots. But I mean, it was a full like head case kind of thing. Like they were absolutely dog walking them mentally.
I would love to hear like clips of what JB Bickerstaff said to those boys in the locker room at halftime.
I don't think that can be released.
Probably, yeah. Every name in the book. Like, I mean, this team, you get outscored 35-12 in the second quarter, and like season's on the line. You're done. You're dead in the water. I don't know what JB did. I don't know if he gave him some happy pills, happy juice, whatever. But the Pistons came out at half, and yeah, they were so incredible. I want to give, I mean, a bunch of shout outs, the entire team for just clawing us back out of that. But I mean, Cade, again, just a really solid performance, 32 points, 10 rebounds, 4 steals. He had 4 steals. Asar Thompson had 4 blocks, like, to go along with 10 boards for Asar. Like, they were everywhere, man. Like, they came out absolutely on fire. And yes, to your point, it did help that the Magic, like, I think when you miss like 10 shots in a row, it really gets in your head. Like, oh fuck, like you start pressing. You're like, someone's got to hit a shot, and then you miss 15 in a row, and it's like, holy shit, like, is that even possible? You miss 20 in a row. It's like, at that point, it's like, yeah, I think the game was totally over for them, and they were already moving on to Game 7. Like, how could we have possibly bottled this big of a lead in an elimination game at home? I think that it all set into a still really young Orlando Magic team that has a lot of room to grow. So yeah, totally, yeah, snowball effect, whatever you want to call it. But the Pistons also played amazing. Like Duncan Robinson too, hitting threes. Second half, I think he had 3 or 4 threes, 14 points in the game, 44% beyond the arc. So he did like just enough. I mean, just in general, like the boys, when you couldn't have your back more against the wall than being down 22 points in an elimination game in a Game 6, and yeah, a miraculous rally. Tobias Harris, who somehow we haven't really talked about yet on this pod, like 22 points, 10 boards. He wasn't fantastic in Game 6, but he, again, 22 points. It was enough to get the job done, just across the board. You had B-Ball Paul in crunch time when the game is still very much on the line. He's still on the scoreboard with 6 points. So yeah, just a little bit of everything for the boys. Stave off elimination and bring it back to Detroit. That's exactly what we needed.
I think the unsung hero, like people in Detroit will see this and know this is what happens, but the unsung hero absolutely was Paul Reed. So Isaiah Stewart, just 8 minutes in that game, 0 points. I mean, actually, he had 0. He was just out there getting cardio. He had absolutely no stat line other than his minutes. B-Ball Paul comes in and just provides an absolute, I mean, it destroyed them as Dennis Jenkins just takes a steal and dunks it. Pistons up 110-111 with 17.1 seconds left.
Game one dub.
They're going to get this done. Game 1 dub. Detroit wins their first Game 1 since 2008, as well as not having played in the second round since 2008. First time they've won a Game 1 since 2008. This is over.
Woo!
That's
right, huge, Detroit. Man. You knew the Cavs had a comeback in them. Like they weren't going to play like absolute garbage like they did. Of course, we're gonna break down this whole series after we get on with the Magic. But that was a huge Game 1. Yeah, can't wait to break it down.
If we're a little bit scatterbrained, it's because this game is just finishing up. We had a 12-game playoff losing streak versus Cleveland. We just snapped. But back to Paul Reed, because I think he absolutely deserves credit. Some reason JB went to him, not some reason, because Isaiah Stewart was just simply not performing. And you look at Jalen Duren, who was also struggling. He had 32 minutes, so a lot more than Isaiah Stewart, but only 8 points. So all series except for Game 7, Jalen Duren wasn't getting done. He went to Paul Reed, and Paul Reed, just like a child with his hair on fire, he was all over the place, for better or for worse. Like there was times when he was so out of control, but he just brings that energy, and it's like nothing's going right in this first half. Let's try and inject a little bit of energy. And you got guys like Paul Reed and Ron Holland who just absolutely do that. Ron obviously didn't get in that game just because I think Paul is a little bit more versatile offensively than Ron, just because Paul at least has a 3-point shot. Paul ended up going 0 for 2 from 3. But yeah, he was great. I just have some fun stats to further dig in on how bad Orlando's offense was. So they missed 23 shots in a row, which was 1 shot away from tying the NBA record for most consecutive shots missed in a row. And the only reason it got stopped, or that they were able to break that streak, was because there was like 3 minutes left, and I think it was Paolo or someone had a drive that like we just weren't going to foul, so everyone just moved out of the way, and he went up for a real easy uncontested dunk. So that one easy dunk was what allowed them to not break the record for the most consecutive missed shots in a row. I mean, it was. I had some other numbers here that I'm going to try and find real quick, but
I think they went without a field goal in like 45 minutes of like actual time, like as you're watching the game, like inclusive obviously of like TV timeouts and everything, but almost a whole hour without them actually making a shot.
Yeah, and they had I think they technically don't have the record for the lowest points scored in a playoff quarter. I believe the Utah Jazz only scored 5 points in a playoff quarter back in the 90s. So the Magic just barely beating that with 8 points in the fourth quarter, but it was all around dominant. That was extreme. And from there, you just knew like, A, coming back from that just absolutely breaks an opponent, and B, knowing that we're going back to our crib and for game 7, like we did that to them on their court, and you just know they don't have an offense that can like bounce back from something like that. I was shocked to see Desmond Bane go so cold. Like I said, he had been so hot. Shout out to the boys for just putting on a defensive masterclass in the second half.
And shout out to Asar Thompson too. Like he had such a tough, assignment. Like at times he was, tasked with locking down Desmond Bane. Like at times he's on Paolo. He can guard anyone. Like he's so insane. Like his defensive DNA was a big reason why we came back and won game 6. And also the boys, shout out the boys for taking care of the ball finally. Like just our Achilles heel the first 4 games of the season. Turnovers, Cade and Cup, everyone on the team, just turnovers galore. And I thought we really took care of the ball in every elimination game, games 5 through 7, but certainly game 6. I was just really proud of the boys. I think Cade only had like 3 or 4 turnovers instead of his like 10 he'd been averaging. So everyone was just taking care of the ball. And turns out that's a recipe for winning games.
Yeah, especially down in Orlando. So then they go obviously back to Detroit. And this game was a game of 2 halves, and I was catching a lot of the first half. I had a wedding I had to attend, so I was trying to watch the game a little bit before the bride was coming down the aisle. But this was a game in the first half. It was very similar to how the series was going. It's kind of back and forth a little bit. At least in the first quarter, the Pistons were obviously down 22-20, but you felt kind of good about it. Still, again, at home, so at some point the crowd was going to get into it. And then from there on out, I feel like Detroit just got back to the 60-win Detroit Pistons that we saw all season. You saw, I don't know if it was because we started just to really break down Orlando, because all game they did a phenomenal job at limiting Jalen Duren, limiting that Cade to Jalen connection. There was not many alley-oops we saw the entire series. They just stuffed the paint and forced us to win, on the perimeter. So I don't know if it was just like a 7-game series with a team as physical as Detroit just really wore them down, that eventually we were able to get to our game that we saw all season. Or it was, a little bit of the effects from game 6 and that beatdown, that second half beatdown that, again, we just kind of broke them mentally. But game 7 was what we saw all season from Detroit. You saw physical Detroit. You saw Jalen Duren, who went off for 15 points, 15 rebounds. You saw Cade Cunningham do exactly what he's, really done all playoffs. He finished with 32 points. And then you mentioned him during our discussion for game 6. Tobias Harris, Tobias, he finished 36 points, or 36 minutes, 30 points, 5 for 7 from 3, a plus 22, 9 rebounds. I mean, if you're Philly, not to throw some random shade towards Philly, but like the Philadelphia 76ers like booed him out of town. They loaded him up on the bus and said, "Get out of here and don't look back." If you're Philly, like you absolutely, I know they had went on to advance too, so I'm sure they're feeling okay. But like a 30 piece from Tobias in a game 7 elimination, that's not something a lot of people were expecting, and he looks fantastic. We said this last week, and I don't know if this was on pod or if this was just in us chatting about the game. Like Cade Cunningham was the best player on the court this entire series. Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris arguably was the most important player on this court. Like he kept him in his mid range kept this team afloat so many times. Like we would not win this game without Tobias Harris easily. Like he had such a fantastic game 7.
And we're not winning the series without Tobias Harris. Like he's the guy just keeping us afloat when everyone else on the team, Cade Cunningham included, is struggling for the first half of the series. And Tobias just out here just doing his thing. Like that is the veteran presence. That is the exact reason why you don't ship Tobias Harris out at the trade deadline. Like last year they were looking at it. There's been some rumors that Tobias was gone. That's
a great point.
Time and time again, they were like, he is the veteran presence. Like he is, the cog that really is turning this Pistons team. Like no pun intended there. But I don't even know how cars work. There's probably no cogs in cars. But at any rate, Tobias, playoff Toby, just huge, man. 30 points, 61% from the field, 71% from 3. Just he couldn't miss, man. But I would be remiss to not mention this next man too, who a huge reason why we win this game as well, coming off the bench, and that's Dennis Jenkins, dude. Like just coming on 80% from 3. I don't even remember him missing. I guess he did miss a 3, but certainly not one that I remember. Maybe blocked that out of my memory, but 16 points, 3 boards, 5 assists off the bench. 63% from the field. He was awesome, man. And it was a game where the margins certainly weren't that small. It was kind of a blowout, but still, you have Dennis still in crunch time in second quarter where you're still trying to grow this lead, and he's coming out and he's just hitting huge threes. Big reason why you put up a 40 burger in the second quarter, and the rest of the game was pretty smooth sailing. It's because he's coming in here and hitting quite literally every three he takes, almost every three he takes. So wanted to give a huge shout out to Dennis Jenkins too. Obviously, shout out to Tobias Harris. Cade, can we say enough about Cade? Every single elimination game that Cade played, he absolutely popped off. And we went for 35, then 45, then now 30 again, 32. So, when the lights were the absolute brightest, and, if you play bad in these elimination games, you know there was going to be a narrative of, well, can Cade do it in the playoffs if he's just turning the ball over and, coughing it up when lights are the brightest. And of course, when his back was against the wall, he absolutely showed the entire country, the entire league that, I'm a playoff caliber player. I'm an all-pro player. Playoff, I'm an all-star starter. I am everything and more to this Pistons team. I'm the guy. Cade Cunningham had absolutely proved that in every elimination game. Could not be more proud of him.
So Cade Cunningham dropped 107 points over the final 3 games, obviously the elimination games. Only 2 players have ever scored more in games 5 through 7 in a series while overcoming a 3-1 deficit. So as I say that, it is a little bit of a small sample size because not every team gets it to game 7. Not every team is able to overcome the 3-1 deficit. The only 2 players to do that before him, LeBron James in 2016 finals versus the Warriors, he had 109 points. So obviously Cade just 2 points shy of that. And Jamal Murray also with 109 points in 2020 in round 1 versus Utah Jazz. So, just 3 guys total. Cade's one of them. He was just 2 points away from tying the record in most. I feel like we were a little hard on him. At least I was in my head. At least the first few games, and maybe rightfully so. Cade, he was just so frustrating that he was just lackadaisical with the ball the first few games. There was he was just kind of jogging up the court and getting stolen from behind. And it's easy to look at that Orlando team and see that and get frustrated with that. But you got guys like Jalen Suggs who literally masters the art of sneaking up behind a guy while he's dribbling over the court and them not knowing it. And we can see it because obviously we're watching on TV, but you're screaming at the TV behind. And so it's so frustrating. We were a little hard on him. And rightfully so, I think. But he absolutely shoved us in a locker and said, "Hold on, boys. I'm still Cade Cunningham. I'm Cade Cunningham. Give me some time." He was plus 29 in Game 7. Plus 29. He led the way, at least for the Pistons, and plus minus. For everyone. There's no one on Orlando's team that was plus 29 just with the way the game was going. They were great. I'm glad you brought up Dennis Jenkins because he was another reason in which I feel like we got back to Pistons basketball, regular season Pistons basketball. Because again, you had Cade Cunningham taking care of the ball and going off offensively. Jalen Duren being dominant, 15 and 15. Dennis Jenkins being that Dennis Schroeder replacement, that backup point guard that offers a little bit of offensive sparks. And we'll get to Dennis Schroeder here in a second. But you had Karis LeVert, not Karis LeVert, Dennis Jenkins going off and being that reason. He was the only one that really did anything from the bench. The Pistons only got 5 other bench points other than him. So other than that, it was just 3 guys in the starting lineup that had, or 4 guys in the starting lineup that had double figures, and then him. And that was the key to success. You needed somebody to take off, take some offensive load in the second half or the second unit. You need Jalen Duren to get back to dominance on the boards and at least somewhat efficient in the paint, and Cade Cunningham doing what Cade Cunningham does. So Game 7 was Pistons basketball to a T. It was. I was happy to put it away. Shout out to Orlando Magic. I don't know what they do moving forward, and we're not an Orlando podcast, so we don't need to really get into it. But they already made their all-in move. Detroit is doing this, not having. We still own all of our first-round draft picks. We haven't made our all-in move, and I'm glad you pointed out the thing about Tobias Harris because you're right. Everyone wanted to make moves, and everyone wanted to make moves to get younger at the four position. And Tobias Harris and his salary would have 100% had to have been included in that deal and whatever deal he made. So that's a great point that Tobias was the one we all wanted to ship out. And, I could not be more happy he's here. So shout out to the Pistons taking it to Orlando. I don't know what you do if you're Orlando. Do you blow it up? There's talk about trading Jalen Suggs for, a different piece. I don't know what you do. I'm just glad we don't have to worry about them again.
I think they'll be all right. They're still growing. But yeah, focusing back on the Pistons, man. Just a couple more things. Just putting a bow on games 5, 6, and 7. Just the epic 3-1 comeback. I just want to talk about Asar Thompson just a little bit more. Just his two-way dominance. It really did change everything. Like, I mean, I have his numbers up in front of me. Like game 5, 15 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. Game 6, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks. And then game 7, he was very efficient, 80% field goal and 4 assists to go along with still a couple more blocks as well. Yeah, just 16 blocks and 16 steals in this series. And I'll say it again, like the fact that he can guard multiple positions, like having that dominant wing defender is it's so invaluable, man. And it forced Orlando to like recalibrate everything that they were trying to do, because Asar, you just have this absolute energizer bunny who will not give up. Like his off-ball defense is insane. His help defense is insane. On the ball, like he just sticks to you like glue, white on rice. Like I've really never seen anything quite like this. I mean, except, his brother down in Houston is doing, pretty much the exact same thing, but
Not as good, though.
These guys is not as good. Yeah, either way. Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't say enough good things about Asar. He's insane. And if he ever does like develop any kind of jump shot, any kind of 3-point shot, if he can somehow shoot 30% from 3, like he is turning into like LeBron light. I'm going to say that. Like if he could shoot the ball, he would be LeBron. He is so amazing at everything else.
I love that. We're saying the benchmark is 30% from 3, like literally just 30% from 3, and you will be all world. Yeah, I mean, so the non-bigs in NBA history with 16 blocks and 16 steals in a playoff series, you got LeBron James, who has done it 5 times, obviously arguably best of all time. I'm not going to get into that. You had Robert Horry do it twice, and Asar Thompson do it twice. And he's only played in 2 playoff series, meaning he's done it in his only 2 playoff series. He is, I can't say enough good. Like he changes, and again, we'll get to the Cavs game here in a second. He changes the way teams, like he is, you could even argue, like I already talked about, Cade Cunningham being the best player on the court, Tobias Harris being the most important guy. You could say Asar Thompson's also the most important guy on the court, even though he doesn't have very much offensive ability. Just one real quick question, Kyle. Over game 6 and game 7, 1 turnover for Asar. Would you consider that good? Would you consider that him be able to dribble? You think he can dribble?
I would consider that good. I don't know if that's like the metric that you think, a guy can dribble or he can't, because he doesn't have any turnovers. He's not really dribbling the ball much, so he doesn't have a lot of opportunities to get turnovers. But
I'll push back on that. If you watch him, he watch their next game. He takes the ball up more. I told you, more times than anyone not named Dennis Jenkins or Cade Cunningham. And even Dennis,
he's also not getting guarded at the 3-point line because he can't shoot. So I think that might make it easier to dribble when you're not getting guarded.
I don't know. Either way, very clean with the ball. I'll say he can dribble. He's fantastic. Pistons end up coming back, avoiding becoming the 7th or 8th overall 1 seed to lose to an 8 seed. Again, not your everyday 8 seed, neither here nor there. Pistons don't allow it to happen. Absolutely shut down Orlando, send them all the way back to Florida on what I'm sure is a very sad plane ride. They get it done and move on to play the Cleveland Cavaliers, who we will get to here. Anything before we get to a quick break and jump into Cleveland? Anything to wrap up the first series for the Detroit Pistons?
Yeah, I think you already mentioned it, and like I don't want to beat a dead horse because it's just one playoff series win, but it is our first playoff series win since 2008. This is the furthest that the team has gotten in the playoffs since 2008, since Chauncey Billups led us to an Eastern Conference Finals, and the team has never been the same since. Like we've just been absolutely awful. So I think you can't downplay you can't downplay this. This is great. I'm really glad we got the monkey off our back, and now onwards and upwards. Because if you think that one playoff series is enough, it's not. For a team that's the 1 seed, like we definitely want more. So onwards and up.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Chauncey Billups. It is kind of sad seeing Ben Wallace courtside every game, Rip Hamilton courtside every game, and then you got Chauncey watching the game from the pen, or he might actually be out. I don't know where he is right now, but okay. Let's go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're gonna be breaking down the Pistons game 1 win now that game is finally in the books, and then the upcoming the rest of the series, our thoughts on it, the thoughts on the season so far, everything just after the short break. All right, we are back. Detroit now, not only I feel like we were going to just be previewing this entire next series, but Detroit now takes a 1-0 lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers, finishing that game. If you're obviously just listening about 5-10 minutes ago, 111 to 101. Detroit, let's start with just this game. And because we get normally we record a little bit earlier, so we would record before the game and then, not have a chance to talk about it. So we have a chance to talk about it. Let's start with just this game and then our overall outlook on the series. Detroit, really from the beginning of the game, they came out really swinging. And I think looking at this series and the series in general, obviously the Pistons split the regular season series with the Cavs 2-2. If you go back and look at those games, a lot of the guys for the Cavs weren't available for those games. Max Strus, who ended up catching fire from three, really all around the court in this game one. He wasn't available for those games. I think the Detroit also had a few guys that were out, so it wasn't 100%, 100% on 100% matchup. But they ended up splitting the regular series 2-2. But out the gate, the Detroit Pistons absolutely came out swinging against the Cavs, and I think they kind of, I want to say they kind of punched them in the face or caught them off guard.
I would say so.
You think so? Because obviously it's a 1 versus 4. Detroit was favored in this game; they're the higher seed. But Cleveland, if you think back to the regular season, Cleveland was on record saying something there was, I don't know exactly how it came about, but it got leaked from the Cavaliers locker room that they were saying they're not worried about Detroit because Detroit's not even in the same league as them. So in Cleveland, I think there was just this mentality that oh yeah, Detroit's cute over there. They got the 1 seed, but JV couldn't get it done here. He's not going to get it done over there. We're not worried about them. And we punched him in the mouth for a majority of this game. I obviously got a little bit close towards the end there, but we took I think it was an 18-point lead at one point, really just taking it to them out the get-go here in Detroit.
Yeah, dude, I would say, certainly not catching them off guard because, we are the 1 seed, but absolutely punched them in the mouth. I think at one point, in the first half, Pistons opened up at least 15, 17-point lead, and it went back and forth, obviously. But yeah, I totally jumped on them early. I mean, I do think that Detroit's defense and our physicality and just that tenaciousness, I do think that it did catch Cleveland off guard a little bit. They were playing horribly, the Cavaliers were. They were tossing the ball out of bounds left and right, turnovers. Detroit was getting steals, blocks. I do think that defensive intensity, certainly punched them in the mouth. And it was enough to, have that big enough lead where, of course, Cleveland, they're a great team. They're gonna claw back, and they ended up tying it after James Harden had 3 bullshit free throws. It got really tight there late in the third quarter into the fourth quarter, but the boys still found a way to get it done. My big takeaway, and I'm just now digesting all the numbers. Obviously we started recording, the game was still going on, so this is very fresh and very much off the dome for the both of us. But I didn't think that Cleveland really could get anything done in the paint, and this is a team with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, 2 very big center and forward presences, and I just feel like our defensive presence, the Pistons' defensive presence in the paint, was pretty suffocating. Cleveland, obviously, they were kicking out threes. I thought that Cleveland shot pretty well from 3. I'm just looking at their 3-point numbers
37.
right now, just 37%. So I guess not anything crazy. The eye test, it felt like they were hitting more, but I do feel like they were settling for threes, jacking them up at times, throwing out bricks because they couldn't get anything done in the paint. So I'm very interested to see, as this series progresses, if they do keep trying to hammer away in the paint, or if they say screw it, we can't do it, we're just going to try to beat the Pistons from 3. But that was a big takeaway for me. I loved our defense in general, but especially the interior presence to just really throw Cleveland off their game and say they're going to start hucking threes. I would gladly have them huck threes all series.
And that's what, going into the series, that's what they were going to do, right? So you mentioned the 2 bigs, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. At times that can be a formula that really Detroit would struggle with, because we have our 2 bigs, but our second big, Isaiah Stewart's a little bit undersized. He obviously can get up with the best of them. But Jalen Duren, especially the first few games outside of Game 7, in which he was obviously a difference maker, outside of that game, he hasn't really done much. So you were a little bit worried coming into this game that, yeah, they were just going to basically muck up the paint on defense and force the Pistons to drive in the paint and then dish it out and have our wings beat them, which they ended up doing a little bit. And shout out to Duncan Robinson, who had a fantastic game. I think he's going to be probably one of my my player of the game if we're going to give that out. He ended up with 19 points, 5 for 8 from 3. But yeah, on defense for Detroit, I should say, when Cleveland was on offense, I think we did our best to, like you said, push them off the block and force them into taking those 3-point shots. And obviously we outscored them in the first quarter 37-21. But then quarters 2 and 3, they outscored us 25-22 and then 30-24. So they kind of did settle in a little bit. We had built up that good cushion a little bit there, but they definitely did settle in a little bit. And I don't think your eye test was incorrect in that. I think at one point they were upwards of 40 plus from 3. I think towards the end of the game that started to cool off a little bit. I think our defense got a little bit lackadaisical a little bit. I think they started to figure out a little bit. So we'll have to kind of watch that moving forward. But I think to start that game and to help us getting into that 37-21 lead in the first quarter, we got to the free throw line a lot. We got Jared Allen into foul trouble almost immediately. It was like 5 minutes into the game and Jared Allen had 3 fouls. And that was huge to take away basically their 2 big men down low. And then we were just able to get to the free throw line and we really converted there. I think that was really great. Sam Merrill, unfortunate for Cleveland, he went down with I don't know if he actually ended up coming back in the game. I don't think he did. Only had 7 minutes. He's obviously a high volume 3-point shooter. He went down with some hamstring tightness, didn't come back in the game. So that, was unfortunate for them and hurt them definitely. But we were just, the shots were falling for us from the, distance. We're shooting 38% from 3, which is better than we've done a lot throughout the season. I already mentioned Duncan Robinson, who had a really great game. Across the board, you had Tobias with 20, Duncan Robinson with 19, Jalen Duren with 11, but 12 boards. So he wasn't really a super big offensive threat, but just getting it done on the glass. Cade Cunningham, for Cade Cunningham status, like a very mellow game, just 23 points. But when everyone else is getting it done, you don't necessarily need him to go nuclear. Asar Thompson with 11 points and 8 rebounds. And then off the bench, Dennis Jenkins, once again, kind of carrying over the Game 7 from Orlando's momentum and being able to get it done. Obviously, he was 0 for 3 from 3-point range, so not getting it done there. I think at least one of those was an end of the shot clock, deep step back that he was kind of forced to take. But still 12 points and really good 29 minutes, getting it done in the mid-range and just showing a lot of confidence, especially in that first quarter. The one thing I'll say that I think we really need to move to look forward or look out against, the difference maker in that second to third quarter, in my opinion, when Cleveland started to make a comeback, obviously you have James Harden, you got in their head, and I'll have a few more things to say about that in a minute. But I think that the low-key difference was Jalen Tyson for the Cavs. Jalen Tyson came in, he had 18 minutes, didn't score a point, 5 rebounds, but what he did is kind of, in my opinion, what Franz was able to do so successfully for Orlando. He came in and he kind of started locking down Cade. Cade only had 23 points, like I said, and while Franz is 6'10", so you kind of assume a 6'10" guy is gonna be able to put some clamps on Cade, who's just 6'6". Jalen Tyson is only 6'6" himself. But I feel like he came in and really provided a spark for Cleveland off the bench defensively. Again, didn't finish with any points, but I thought Cade really struggled against him. And I think that's something we need to watch. I think that's when the tide started to turn a little bit. And you kind of were hoping all right, kind of feel this slipping away a little bit. Cleveland's making that comeback. I could really use a 5-minute dominant stretch from Cade Cunningham where he goes on, a personal 8-0 run. And he wasn't able to do that with Jordan Tyson. So I think that's something we got to kind of keep an eye out looking forward and for the rest of the series.
Dude, great call out, man. I'm proud of you for that analysis right there. Pat on the back. Yeah, Jalen Tyson comes in 18 minutes, +9, plus minus. Only other player on the Cavs that was even positive plus minus was Jared Allen, who we talked about only played 18 minutes himself, basically didn't play with foul trouble. So yeah, absolutely. Jalen Tyson comes in, he's locking down Cade. I thought Cade was certainly more average this game. Granted, the reason why Cade is so special is even when he has off games like this, shoots 6 of 19, 2 of 5 from 3 is not bad, but 6 of 19 overall just was pretty inefficient, but he can still get to the line. He's that special of a player where, he's going to go at his own pace. He can basically get to anywhere on the court that he wants, including getting to the rim. So he got to the line, 9 of 11 from free throw, never forget. Yeah, dude, he just, he's that special, where even when he has an off day, he's still gonna put up 23 points, 3 boards, 7 assists. So plus minus plus 12, like he was still doing everything. Dennis, yeah, was hooking up a couple, but off the bench, I'm totally fine with that. Like, especially when you have a bench where it seems like the Pistons bench can't quite figure it out, and it seems like someone pops off one time, but then the rest of the bench goes cold. Dennis really is your number one scorer off the bench. I mean, him and Javonte Green, who's your best 3-point shooter off the bench by far. But I'm totally fine with Dennis, putting up 13 shots if it leads to 12 points, 2 for 3, 2 free throw, plus 8 off the bench. Yeah, I mean, just all in all, just solid from top to bottom. Yeah, you mentioned all the starters, every starter in double figures. Duncan Robinson, man, like he was doing a little bit of everything. Yeah, from 3, he was awesome, 5 for 8. He was hitting some floaters too, which
yes, dude.
Is definitely not Duncan Robinson's, bread and butter. He's more of your catch and shoot guy, maybe a one dribble guy, pump fake and then get one up. Certainly not known for dribble and driving, and yeah, multiple times he is getting to the rim, hitting some free throws. I think he missed a free throw too, but we're not gonna hold that against him. But yeah, all in all, man, like probably the unsung hero, or maybe the sung hero of game 1, Duncan Robinson, man, 19 points.
That's such a great point, because I saw that immediately as well. That like, yeah, he was lighting up from 3, and so they had to really attack and close out on him. And a lot of times for guys like Duncan Robinson, when their bread and butter is just 3-pointers, they're just a flamethrower. They're just going to try and get, and guys like him, guys like Malik Beasley, like they're so quick with their shot that even when a guy's hard closing out on them, they're still able to get it up and out. He was, yeah, I agree completely. He was putting it on the deck, and he was doing some acrobatic stuff and able to get, and I think that's what really helped. Almost like it wasn't like super crazy, but I think that's what almost helped the staving off of the Cavaliers comeback, because it was stuff like that I think just broke the Cavs, and that's going to be super huge moving forward. The whole thing about this Cavaliers team is that they're not known to be mentally tough. Like they're one of the, if you could put this into like a numbers or a stat or anything, they're known to be a little bit more of a mentally weak team. That's one of the reasons they could never get it done with JB Bickerstaff. They were not able to get past the first, for 1 or 2 rounds in the playoffs. And so coming into this series, everyone was saying, like, how are they going to react to a Detroit Pistons team that's going to hit them in the mouth? Like, are they going to be able to take that on the chin and, smile back at you and hit you right back? And I think you saw that a little bit in Dennis Schroeder, that fuck you attitude, where they both got that, or he got a technical. Obviously, then James Harden and Duncan Robinson both got technicals as well. But you saw Dennis Schroeder have that attitude a little bit. And it's no coincidence that he was with this Detroit team last year. Like, he understands what it takes to beat a team like this. You got to be like that. And so it really is just like, will Dennis Schroeder be able to rub off on some of those Cavs guys? And I think being able to just dominate them from 3 like Duncan was to start this game, but then also when you start to close out on them and figure that out, put it on the deck and just take it right down the lane and get up a hard shot or a hard foul or something. I think that was huge. I think you saw the bigs. Evan Mobley was a non-factor, like you said, down in the paint. He had a few threes, so that's been something to watch. That's probably, if I'm Cleveland, that's where I'm going to attack and set up more plays to get Jalen Duren away from the basket, because Mobley can hit from out there. So if you get Jalen Duren out there because he can hit out there, then suddenly that opens up a lot more in the paint. Unless you're running a double big with Isaiah Stewart, you're losing your big man. But then again, you look at the other demon that's down there, and Asar Thompson. Asar was fantastic in this game. He worried me a little bit in the first half. He had 2 quick fouls, and I told this to you and our buddies before the game started. If you think back to the Knicks series last year, one thing that you had Asar obviously on Jalen Brunson, Asar best defender, Jalen Brunson best offensive player. So you had Asar playing against him. Brunson did so well so many times, the pump fake and then jump into, the unethical jump into you to draw the foul. You see him do it. You see guys like SGA do it. James Harden has been doing that since the dawn of time. And so I was really afraid that he was going to kind of fall into that early foul trouble and then suddenly become a non-factor because he can't be as aggressive because he already got that early foul trouble. He got 2 fouls a little bit early, but I think he was just able to, like we said in the Orlando series, take over. Like they were struggling so much. James Harden could not get into a rhythm until the fourth quarter. Like you said, he started to have that 3-point shot, and I think he had like an and one and stuff there. So like he started to come alive a little bit, which you thought he would. But Asar Thompson, again, one of the most important guys on this team, finished with 11 points, 8 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. I mean, we can't say enough about it. Like he is so important to this team, and I think that's going to be key moving forward. Because again, if I'm Cleveland, I'm coming into game 2. I'm pulling Evan Mobley away from the basket and say like, hey, if Duren doesn't come out on you, shoot the 3. You can hit it. If he does come out on you, that opens the lane. So then we'll dish it back to the paint and let someone else go to work. Or I'm attacking Asar Thompson. I'm going right downhill at him. He's either going to block the shot, we're going to get it up, or he's going to foul. And 2 of those 3 things, I'm probably okay with. And hopefully if you're Cleveland, you get him in foul trouble early, and then you can attack him. And it's a different game from there. So Asar Thompson, a hell of a defensive game once again.
100%, dude. He was doing it, both sides of the floor again. He was getting to the lane, had a couple sweet dunks. Big thing for me, not just Asar, but yeah, certainly shout out to Asar. 4 offensive rebounds for Asar, 7 for Jalen Duren, and then 3 for Dennis Jenkins. So like those guys accounted for almost all of our offensive rebounds. But I mean, the boys were getting it done on the glass, and I think that offensive rebounding, a lot of it's just heart. A lot of it is like, yeah, I am going to beat you, even though you're the defender, you have the position naturally on me. I'm still going to beat you to the spot. And I'm going to get an offensive rebound, and I think that it goes back to your point, Ty, is that this Pistons team just has more heart than this Cavs team, and it's I'm not giving huge shade to Donovan Mitchell. I do like him as a player, but I am going to give a hell of a lot of shade to James Harden. Like we know, I mean, he is just a guy who folds in the playoffs like year in and year out, and a lot of it's heart, man. A lot of it's like a guy who just, at the end of the day, he cares more about getting his paycheck than he does about winning championships. And I'm not going to say there's anything super wrong with that. Like, dude, you're doing your job, you're getting money. Like, I don't really care what you think. You do you. But if you're a Cavs fan, you certainly care, and you're like, wow, I want a guy on the team who wants to win a championship. And I think that James Harden doesn't really care about that. So again, don't want to throw too much shade, but you see it in little things like offensive rebounding where the Pistons just seem like they want it more, and that really fires me up, man. And so I'm just so pumped, dude. Pistons 111, Cavs 101, like just a huge game 1. But I will say, we're at like the 46-minute mark, so at some point we got to get to grid of the week. But just zooming out a little bit and looking at this playoff series, it's just 1 game, and I do see this as a back and forth series that it has to go at least 6. Like I just don't see it going less than 6. Both these teams obviously just came off 7-game series, so like they're both battle tested, but they're both kind of beat up too and tired, and I see this as being a back and forth game where home court advantage is very important. 6 games, 7 games, whatever it is. I'm looking at a couple matchups for sure. It's Cade versus Donovan Mitchell. I mean, that's like, those are the big ones. That's like our guy versus their guy. Like which point guard can catch fire, which one can stop the other one. That's huge for me. And then I am gonna say like, yeah, Asar Thompson versus both James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, like whoever, maybe it's Max Strus, whoever we're throwing them on, like how can Asar lock them down? We saw that big time in game 1. Can he keep it up? I do think so, but those are a couple big key ones for me.
I was gonna ask you that exact question. Like moving forward, so James Harden finished fun little stat for James Harden. He had 6 baskets and 7 turnovers. So obviously Asar was a lot of times on him. He's struggled all playoffs with turnovers. I think he was leading the playoffs in turnovers coming into this game. I'm sure this game didn't help him. I think second, unfortunately second, I think was Cade Cunningham. But Cade ended up the night with just 4 turnovers. And then obviously Harden had 6 baskets, 7 turnovers. So that was going to be my question. Like moving forward, as we get into game 2, 3, 4, 5, do you keep, I was gonna say, who do you want Asar to be guarding? Do you want to basically eliminate James Harden and say like, all right, Donovan Mitchell and Cask, can you beat us? Or do you want to basically shut Donovan Mitchell down and say like, all right, James Harden, can you get the 35-year-old James Harden, however old he is, like, can you and your turnovers and Cask come out, and beat us in that way? And I don't think there's an answer. I think you just have to be fluid with it. And I think you have to like start him on Donovan Mitchell, probably just because he can light it up. And again, I don't want him. I think James is way better at drawing those fouls, and we can't afford to get Asar Thompson in foul trouble early. So I think you start him on Donovan Mitchell, And then you kind of just go with the flow in the game. If Donovan Mitchell is really struggling and James suddenly gets hot, or like you said, Max Struss starts getting hot off the bench, I think you just kind of move him around. And they obviously deployed Ron Holland a little bit in this game. He didn't play a few of the games in Orlando, so he's also somebody not so much great on the offensive side, but you can deploy him and just stick him on somebody and try and shut them down. So that was gonna be my question. But I like zooming out for this game. I mean, this just shows like how important the regular season is. Because like going back to games, like if Cleveland's gonna beat Detroit, it's gonna have to be a game in 6 in Cleveland. Because like coming back to Detroit once again, a game 7 in Detroit with a team that already is somewhat known to be less mental and less mentally strong, and a Detroit Pistons team that is tough and gritty, and a Detroit fan that like just wants to there's very little chance I think Cleveland can win a game 7 here in Detroit. So I think if it's gonna go 6, if the Cavs are gonna win, it's got to be in 6. But my question for you is, we gauged toward when the playoffs started, like what would be in your mind a successful series or a successful season, successful playoffs? Obviously, we went down 3-1. We ended up coming back and having I don't want to say historic, but a great comeback down 3-1. You take care of business against Cleveland right now. What's a successful? Are you still on the same boat? I think you said an Eastern Conference Finals. I think I was saying like a put up a good at least game 6 or 7 in the semifinals, or at least get to the conference finals. Are you in the same boat? Has the goalpost moved a little bit, and that like we should be going home right now, having been down 3-1 since we were able to come back. We won game 1. As long as we take them to 6 games, you feel good, or are you still steadfast on it's got to be Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, it's so funny. I think goalpost has moved multiple times for me.
Yeah.
In the last like week or so. Like, yeah, I mean, we were obviously dead to rights. And then even coming into this series, like I don't know. I don't know what to expect. You don't know which team you're really gonna get out of the Pistons, because you got the cold of the games basically 1 through 4, then the hottest team ever, game 5 through 7. So yeah, I wasn't sure. Now I'm gonna answer it with everything that I've seen right now. Now that you kind of went belt to ass for like 2 quarters to the Cavs and staved off their comeback. Yeah, I think absolutely you have to win this series. You're the better team. Vegas thinks you're the better team. Slight favorites. I think Pistons were basically like even money to advance, and the Cavs were maybe like a plus 120. So razor thin margins there in Vegas's eyes. But yeah, you're the better team, and you have home court advantage. Like this is a Cavs team that we talk about. Like they're soft. They got the shit beat out of them all 3 games where they had to go to Toronto. And Toronto, like, they're not like a great playoff team. Like, yeah, they surged down the stretch and they got up to that 5 seed, but certainly they're not a team that anyone thought could make a run in these playoffs. And still they took the Cavs to 7. So yeah, granted, I'm talking as a Pistons fan who just was on the brink of a 3-1 elimination. But again, like I do think that the Pistons are the better team here. You got to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. At the end of the day, you're the 1 seed. You got to get it done, and especially after winning game 1. Like, granted, you're the home team, you're the 1 seed. You should win game 1. They did it against the Magic. I'm so fucking glad that they did here. I think you take care of business at home. You steal 1 in Cleveland, and you get out of there in 6.
I'm on board with you with the goalpost moving. It's the first time we've been ahead in a series in, like we said, almost 20 years. So I'm on board with you. I think it's very doable. Especially, and obviously, we have the ability to, or the I don't know, we're able to watch this game 1, and had we recorded before game 1, maybe my answer would have been different. But I think because it is doable, because you have home court advantage, like you said, because I think we actually do match up pretty well with this Cavaliers team. I think I'm on the same page as you, and that like. No, I'm gonna say I'm not. I wouldn't consider a non-successful season or playoffs if we don't make it. I think as long as we take them, to 6 at least, and obviously win game 1, it's a good chance that it's at least going to be going there. I think you take them to game 6. I think I would consider the game 6 or a success, but I think I still would be vastly disappointed just because it is extremely doable. So, yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page here. You might have a little bit higher expectations than me at the moment, but I'll definitely be disappointed if we don't. The last thing I'll say, just because, like you said, we're about 55 minutes here. I could continue talking about the Pistons all night. The only other news we had, JB Bickerstaff actually got a contract extension, moving into next season. I don't know the numbers on it. I haven't seen it come out yet. A little bit interesting. A lot of people were saying, obviously this came out earlier today, I think, maybe yesterday. people were a little bit shocked just because we went down obviously 3-1 in the first series, and people were saying that talking a little bit about the minutes and the rotations and stuff, and JB was struggling. Obviously JB has this, or had, I should say, before this game tonight, a little bit of that monkey on his back that like he can't get it done in the playoffs. And so people were a little bit surprised that we were proactive in getting JB that extension. But I mean, you look at the larger body of work, insane turnaround, should be coach of the year this year in the NBA, might not, but absolutely it should be, and obviously is the top two. He's going to be, if he doesn't win, he's going to come in second place. So they end up getting it done with him. I don't know the terms. I don't know if you had the terms in front of you, but the Pistons, JB Bickerstaff extended to stay here in Detroit. So shout out to JB.
Dude, absolutely, man. I mean, so well deserved. We've talked about it so many times, but I mean, the man won 60 games in 2 seasons after the team won 14 games the previous season. So yeah, pay the man his money. I mean, he is worth every penny, and yeah, hopefully we see a lot of success in the playoffs too. Already won that first series, so got the monkey off everyone's back. First series win since 08. Yeah, shout out JB, man, and shout out those boys. Game 1, getting it done.
Yeah, I think they love playing for him. I think that obviously he couldn't get it done in Cleveland. I think he just doesn't mesh well with Cleveland. I think the players can't say enough good things about him. So I think he just meshes with Detroit and those players. So I'm glad they got it done. Again, we don't know the terms yet. I don't know if coaching terms come out all that often. I think maybe it's a more kind of behind the scenes, and just he's here until he's not here. Most of the time they end up getting fired rather than running out their contracts anyway. So okay. Let's wrap up the show with our Grit of the Week. Before we do that, as always, you guys know Grit of the Week is brought to you by Pins and Aces. Pins and Aces is a Colorado golf brand offering premium polos, head covers, everything you need. I'm sure the Orlando Magic have a lot of time on their hands down there in Florida, probably going to get out there and play some golf. They can use our promo code GRIT for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. They are a premium golf style brand offering standout men's and women apparel, golf bags, head covers, on-course accessories, all designed to elevate performance and self-expression on the course. What makes them different, you may be asking? Everything they make combines high-quality materials, functionality golfers actually need, and bold, creative designs that break the mold from your traditional golf gear, everything that's boring. Again, we're not going to be golfing for quite some time, the Pistons that is, because we're still in the playoffs, but anyone else not in the playoffs, use promo code GRIT for 21% off at checkout, any product at pinsandaces.com. You want to kick us off for Grit of the Week?
Grit of the Week, man. Couple guys that I could give it to, both on the hardwood. But I'm giving it to the Unk, man. My Grit of the Week, Tobias Harris, 21 points, nearly 22 points and 8 rebounds in the 7 games against the Magic. And yeah, man, including just when the team was just at our backs against the wall. Game 3, 23 points. Game 4, 20 points. Game 5, another 23 burger. 22 points in Game 6, and to go along with 10 rebounds, double-double there. And then 30 points in elimination, Game 7. Just dragging his nuts, just showing everyone that, like, yeah, I am the Unk of this team, but I can still get it done. Mid-range, flamethrower from 3. Yeah, Game 7, 30 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. Just a big dub. Huge reason why the Pistons got their first playoff series dub since 2008, since the two of us were in fucking elementary school. Like, it feels really good, man. Yeah, Grit of the Week, Tobias Harris.
Tobias is an easy Grit of the Week. If you didn't pick him, he obviously was going to be my number 1 pick for Grit of the Week. We already went over him a bunch, and you just walked us through it again. Like, Cade Cunningham was so massive for this team and putting the team on his back, but Tobias Harris has absolutely turned it to another level. He was we were kind of worried that, like, we don't have a number 2 and or Tobias is number 2, we're in trouble. And he kind of, like we said during the Orlando segment specifically, he shut us all in the locker and just said, like, I got this, guys. Don't worry. I've been here before. He ended up rolling his ankle in one game, was able to come back and still play. So I think shout out to Tobias. As long as he can, continue just do mid-range things. Like him in the mid-range game has been insane. So shout out to Tobias Harris. I have so many other guys I feel like I can go with. I'm almost inclined to give it to Paul Reed just because I think he single-handedly, like we said, in that elimination game, Game 6, he just came in and just offered a different different style of playing and just different energy, and that kind of sparked that turnaround. I could give it to Cade Cunningham for absolutely carrying this team. I think Cade's got enough grit of the weeks though, even though he was averaging 37 points or something, and over the elimination games there. I'm gonna give it to a guy that, again, we have the benefit of having watched tonight's game, winning game one. I'm going to give it to Duncan Robinson. I think Duncan Robinson has been extremely important to this team in ways that, we sorely would be missing had we have not gone out and traded for him. And shout out Simone Fontecchio for being involved in that trade and being down there in Miami and bringing Duncan Robinson here. But the Pistons kind of got a curveball thrown at them last offseason when they suddenly couldn't re-sign Malik Beasley. I mean, the rumor was they were literally crossing T's and dotting I's on a 3-year deal when suddenly the NBA came down with their investigation. And we were suddenly a team that was already struggling from three, really struggling, going to be struggling from three. And Duncan Robinson, he's been up and down this season. But I think this playoff series, averaging 3-point range, 36.5%, 2-point, he's playing fantastic. I think one of the major things, though, you pointed out, like you said, being able to put the ball on the deck, and that's not something that Malik really ever could do last year. He was just a flamethrower from three and would get it up in very small windows. But he never put the ball on the deck. I think Duncan Robinson has done a great job getting into the lane, putting the ball on the deck there. And I think his defense has been more than serviceable. He's not someone who is heralded for his defense, but multiple times I saw him guarding up, just through switches, guarding up guys like Donovan Mitchell and doing a good job not fouling. And he's not a world-class defender, but I think for as well as he's been playing, specifically 3-point wise, his defense was really, really nice. So I think Duncan Robinson deserves it. He is a Michigan boy, so I don't want to give him too much credit. But I shout out Duncan Robinson. I think he's been huge for tonight at the very least.
Hell yeah, dude! 19 points, and I'm totally with you on defense. He's not lighting the world on fire, but he's also not just the absolute liability that he might have been on defense earlier on in his career. He's staying with guys for the most part, and if he gets cooked. Which this is the NBA, everyone's getting cooked, every once in a while. We have amazing help defense. We got guys like Asar who just have eyes in the back of their heads and are going to go help. And obviously the Durans and the Stews of the world that, we got your back, Duncan, if you ever do get cooked. But yeah, if you keep shooting that well from three, look out, Cavs. This is, I like this matchup. I like how the Pistons match up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm pumped for this series, man. It's going to be a dogfight.
And you saw him get a little bit going towards the end of the Magic series, and obviously that's when we ended up winning those 3 games in a row. And so when shooters get hot, they can go on streaks for well over a week in multiple games. And with these quick turnaround games in the playoffs, getting hot in one game could lead to getting hot for 4 or 5 games in a row. And then the final thing I'll say about him, the ESPN just did a piece on him and his late brother, who I think it was a fantastic piece, only 7-10 minutes or something like that. So if you guys get a chance, look up Duncan Robinson and that story. Really touching piece. Shout out to him. A lot of respect for him and the trials and tribulations he's been going through, or he went through, kind of that no one really knew about on the backside. So shout out to him. Shout out to all the Pistons coming back from 3-1, taking game one. Like I said, there's so many different guys that could have been warranted for getting grid of the week. I wish we can give it to everyone. Maybe a collective grid of the week light to the entire team. Shout out to them. So okay, that's our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or on TikTok at Gridiron Report or on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1. You also can watch these full-length episodes. Watch Kyle and I reacting to the Pistons game live, winning game 1 here on YouTube at Gridiron Report. And then finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. We're obviously going to continue talking about the Pistons, so call into that voicemail. Leave us your thoughts on different games, who is playing well, who needs to step up, different matchups you like. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And then finally, if you guys like this episode, please take a moment to listen to give us 5 stars. Leave us a review saying how much you liked it. Follow us on all forms of social media. Comment on everything. We love commenting back and getting involved in that conversation. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Let's go Pistons.
Yeah. Every highlight It's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.